Hi guys, thanks for stopping down to Pete's Garage. Well, this is going to be my next project right here. This is my 2012 Chevy Malibu, and as you can see, the front of my car got clipped by somebody making a corner too sharp. Clipped the front of my car and ripped off the front bumper cover and ruined the headlight assembly. So what I'd like to do is, if you have a similar situation like this and you want to fix it yourself, I'm going to show you how to get large plastic parts like this bumper cover and headlight assembly, how to prep them, how to paint them, how to get them ready for installation, and how you can save money or even make money on something like this doing it yourself. I know it looks bad, but it really is only the bumper cover that got destroyed and the headlight assembly that got destroyed. There's a really small dent here on the fender, but I can fix that. I'm not going to include that. So we'll focus on painting plastic parts, painting large plastic parts, preparing them for installation, and the easiest way to go about it so you make sure you don't break the plastic, put it in, don't scratch the existing finish, and have it look like a professional job without having to take it to the shop and make some money in the process. Now, the only part I really need to do anything with, prep-wise, is the front bumper cover. These large plastic parts usually come primed, and I buy them from a couple different places. I usually use rockauto.com. I got this one from partsgeek.com, and they come in very, very good condition, and they're usually primed. Even though they're primed and they say they're ready for paint, they should be hit with at least a 400 grit sandpaper. So I am going to wet sand this entire bumper cover with 400 grit wet and dry and get it ready for the sealer coat. And when I'm ready for the sealer coat, I'll show you how that goes on and why that part of the process is very important. Okay, I spent about an hour sanding and going over the bumper cover with a fine-tooth comb to remove all of the little imperfections that were in the primer. Did it with 400 grit sandpaper all the way around. Checked every little corner to make sure that there was no little nub sticking up and all the corners were nice and crisp. Now I can put the primer sealer on. And the primer sealer that I'm going to use, and I'll show you what I'm going to do here. I'll go back in the shop where I mix my paint. Primer sealer can be done a couple different ways. I'm going to use a chroma seal. This is a 77 70S chroma base chroma seal by DuPont. And the reason I'm using this is because it's only about 60 degrees right now where I'm painting, and I can put some hardener in there. It mixes 4-to-1, and it'll help this harden in the cool air. During the summer, when I do this, I usually use a sealer that is pre-mixed. So all you gotta do is pour it in, prime it, seal it, and you're ready to roll. Now the sealer does a couple things that's very important. First of all, it provides a chemical barrier between the primer that's on the part itself and the plastic and the material I'm going to be putting over it, which is the chroma base maker, chroma base with the base maker and a chroma clear. The sealer, the primer sealer, seals the part so that the solvents in the paint and the clear do not melt through and reactivate the primer and the plastic that's on part of the bumper. If that happens, you have to start from scratch, and it's a complete mess, and you'll have to sand it all off or whatever, but you have to do the sealer coat. The second thing the sealer does is it provides a sort of a last chance for you to look at to make sure there aren't any real small imperfections and make small fills if you really need it. This really goes on in just one medium to heavy wet coat. And with the hardener, it should harden pretty quick. It should harden to a dull finish. And I'll put that on right now. I'm going to throw that right on the bumper. You can see I have my bumper ready to roll right here. And as soon as I get that on and it's wet, I'll show you what it looks like wet and then what it looks like when it dries. And here is the full wet coat of the sealer. Again, the sealer provides an adhesion layer between the paint and the plastic and the primer. Number one. Number two, it provides a chemical barrier between the primer that's on the plastic and the material you're going to be spraying so that the solvents in the paint do not eat through the plastic or eat through the primer and bubble up your paint. So the primer sealer layer with this chroma seal is very important. It's shining wet right now. It's about 60 degrees in here, and the hardener will help that activate, and it should dry in about 10-15 minutes flash time. It'll give me time to clean my spray equipment, and when I'm done, I will put the 2 to 2.5 coats of the color on, the chroma-based color. And here's what the sealer looks like. You can see that it provides a very, very smooth finish for the paint to go on. So now what I'm going to do is put on about 2 coats, 2.5 coats of the color, all at one shot, and I'm going to do it in separate 3/4 coats just to get equal coverage throughout the entire part. So after the sealer comes the color. The painting materials I use are very expensive, and the way you get the right measurement for 1:1, 4:1 is you use a measuring cup just like this. Here's 4:1 right here, and in this case you'd measure out 1 part, and here's the four parts of this to 1 part to that. That's for 4:1. I'm mixing the paint now, and the paint is mixed 1:1, so it's half and half. So what I'm going to do is, the paint is very expensive. It's roughly about $300 a gallon. So I'm going to fill this up to about 2 with the paint, and then up to here with the base maker. So since it's mixed 1:1, I'm going to take the paint. I'm going to pour the paint in here right up to that number 2, right to that line on a 2. Okay, that's 1 part paint. And then I'm going to add the base maker to this. Now this will go right up to this next 2 line there, and I will fill this up to the next 2. So now it's mixed 1:1. And when you mix, you always use a fresh stick. And I'm going to mix it up thoroughly, and every time you use paint, no matter what you're doing, primer, paint, clear coat, always use a strainer. Always use a strainer. Now I'm going to put the paint on. We'll see how that looks. Okay, the part is ready. I have the color coat on here, and you can see it dries dull. And you have to make sure that this is completely dry before you put the clear on, because you don't want them to interact. There is a flash time. You can just give it the old sniff test. If you can still smell it, it's still drying. Now what I'm going to do with this part is I'm going to go over it thoroughly with a tack cloth to make sure it is 100% dust free. And I will be wearing a suit and covering my hair, because when you paint, most of the dust comes off of you, not out of the air. So I'll be putting a clear coat on here, and first tack rag, cleaning it all off. You can never use a tack rag too much. Well, you could. If you feel like you're making love to the thing, you got to stop. But cleaning it off is extremely important. Tack rag, very slow. Go over the entire part, and then you'll be all ready for the clear coat. Okay, now the clear is on, and the key to clear coating is very light coats, about 5-10 minutes apart. And the second key to clear coating I'm breaking right now is to not to disturb it. So I'm just going to let this sit here and cure for a couple hours before I handle it. That way it won't attract any dust and nothing will stick. But it came out very nice. Now, by having the new part, before you take off the old part, it makes it a lot easier to see where all the fasteners are. So all the tabs and all of the hidden fasteners on the edge of the fender and all the plastic parts, it's a lot easier to see what needs to be removed in order to put the new part on. So before you kill yourself trying to take the plastic part off, you have the new part, and you can see the new part, you can see where all the holes are, and you can see what fasteners there are above and below. One need to be taken out to make the job a hell of a lot easier. So I have this whole front bumper cover taken off the front of the car, and it really only took about I'm going to say 20-25 minutes. There's about 30 fasteners, and that bumper cover comes right off. Now I can change my headlight and put the front bumper cover right back on. The headlight assembly on the Malibu is pretty simple. It's only held in with 2 screws. You got 1 screw right here and 1 screw on the side here, which means that when you need to change a headlight, it looks like you have to take apart half of the bumper cover to change a headlight. That's a major pain in the butt. But there's new headlight assembly. You can see the old one here was just completely destroyed, and a new one goes right in place. That's a $230 headlight assembly right there. It takes about a half an hour to take out all of the grill components on both sides and install them in the new grill and a new bumper cover. There's a lot of screws in the back. There was probably about 60 fasteners holding this all together. So it did take quite some time to pull it all apart, clean that, and put that together. Now I can put the bumper cover on the body. And putting the bumper cover on is very simple. I'm just going to slowly put it into place, lift it up over the top here, and I'm going to sit it right on the top of the porch just like this. Get it nice and close. Just let it hang here. Just like that. Now I'll start to trim, put it in, bolt it in just in reverse order. Should go right in. And here's the finished installation for the front bumper cover. There still is a little polishing I have to do some color matching, and there's actually a lot of salt on the car, so the color's a little different, but the front bumper cover went on nice. It's quite a wrestling job, so if you're going to do this, I'd have someone help you. I did it by myself, but it was pretty difficult to wrestle it into position, especially around the wheel wells. But after you get it all together and put it on, it came out pretty good. I like it. I think it's a job you can do yourself. There's Shelby again. Hi, Shelby. That's my Shelby. Came out great. And again, I'm going to go over some details over the finances and how you can do it and actually make money doing it yourself. So this is something I think you can do, and great results if you take your time and get a little help. I think you can do it yourself. So let me talk about how the money shook out for this project. The insurance company gave me an estimate for $1,700. Minus my deductible, I got about $1,400 from the insurance company. All of the parts were $425. The painting materials about another $125, $150, let's call it, even $175. Total all up about $600 for parts, paint, materials to complete the whole job. Take that away from the $1,400. I made about $800 on the job. Now, it took me 8 hours, so I paid myself roughly $100 an hour to fix my own car. Now, I used one spray gun for the entire job, a DeVilbiss Finish Line gun. I used it for the sealer, the base coat, and the clear coat, so one gun did the whole job. You can get that for about $100 all day long at many different shops online, the DeVilbiss Finish Line spray gun. And if you buy a cheap compressor, all you need is a 2 horsepower, 3 horsepower compressor because it's an HVLP gun, high volume, low pressure. You don't need a lot of pressure, so you can get a small compressor for a couple $100, invest maybe $300, $400. You'll still end up with $400 in your pocket. So if you do have an accident like this that doesn't require major collision repair, all I did was replace parts. I replaced the bumper cover and the entire headlamp assembly. That's all I replaced. And some clips, hardware here and there that was missing. But all in all, I made about $800 on the job. So if you go to do this, all you have to do is replace parts, it's worth it to buy the parts, buy the tools you need to finish the job, the paint gun, a compressor. If you can borrow, you can probably rent a compressor for $40 a day and get it all done in one day if you can. Do the whole job yourself and you put money in your pocket. Instead of giving it to a collision shop, try and fix it yourself. It's worth it. I do it all the time. Small jobs like this, you can help a friend out. If you know someone who has an accident, change a fender, change a bumper cover, change parts, just paint them and replace them. You can make some pretty good money on the side. So I hope you learned something from this video. It's very easy for you to change large plastic parts. There's a lot of help online, a lot of pictures you can see where all the clips are, how everything's attached, and how to line it up. Very easy to find on almost any car. Most new cars are very similar, so if you can do one, you can do various cars. Anybody else who has a problem, you can figure it out. They're very, very similar. So I hope you learned something, enjoyed it. I appreciate you watching. Thanks for stopping by Pete's Garage.